welcome back to Your Town, Your Call here on Rogers TV. Georgina, my name is Rob Grossi. I'm the host of Your Town, Your Call, a program that we hope you in the town of Georgina get to learn a little bit more about this great community that we live in, the people, the places, the stories, the services that are available. We're talking tonight about seniors and the challenges that seniors have in this community. My first guest was Tim Jones. Now I have Andrea Ubell here from the Alzheimer Society of York Region. Great to see you, Andrea.
Thank you.
So, we talked to Tim about, really probably the earlier times and those challenges that you have when you transition to being a senior and the kind of services, transportation and otherwise. Alzheimer's is a whole different ballgame now.
It is, and it can, it's not just a seniors issue. I think that's the thing that a lot of us think, it's just seniors.
Exactly.
We have people that we service in our programs from as young as 40,
wow.
37, 40 years old, up to 99, and we've had one fellow who was 104 when he left our programming. And we have, it's a neurological disease, so I mean we have to separate normal forgetfulness that sort of happens to all of us as we get a little older.
Right.
That's normal.
Right.
But this is something that really impacts a person's whole life.
Yeah, I've seen how it affects individuals, but I've also seen the challenges for the caregiver.
Oh,
and
particularly.
Tim and I were just talking about caregivers, and I just wanted to, because I know of one situation, a lady in town. I won't tell you who she is, but she has posted on Facebook the last couple of years her mother, and she went to live with her mother who had dementia. And she posted about the challenges on a daily basis. And, it was really interesting and inspiring to those to watch the kind of care and dedication that she had to be able to do that. It must be, really difficult.
It is. When I work, and I've worked as a social worker for 25 years for the Alzheimer Society of York Region, but I've also been a family member who's lived through this.
Really? Okay.
More times than I care to count.
Okay.
And it is very much a family disease. The person who is impacted with the illness, it also impacts everybody around them.
Right.
It impacts all of the relationships. If it's a husband and wife who are seniors, what they expected to do in their retirement, they're not going to be able to do.
Right.
How they expected to spend their nest egg is not going to be spent that way.
Right.
If it's someone in their 40s or 50s in their prime of life who's struck down with the illness, they have young children.
Yeah.
And they may be the primary breadwinner for the family. So the impact is huge. If it's a child who gives up their livelihood to take care of a parent, huge challenges financially, emotionally, and we all come from families.
Right.
The word dysfunction has fun in it, but every family functions a certain way, and sometimes this disease very much rips the family apart until people get to the point where they understand what's going on.
So your mission statement is what? It's to...
Oh, you asked me to. It's to alleviate the personal and social consequences of Alzheimer's disease and look at research as well.
Okay.
So the Alzheimer's Society in York Region started about 30 years ago by a group of families who needed service. So we started with a day program, and that was in Thornhill. It was, in fact, the only day program of any sort north of Steeles.
Wow.
And we used to, when I started 25 years ago, we'd bring people down from Georgina on transit, on buses, to Thornhill. That's a long drive. We were fortunate enough, I think it was 98, we received extra funding, so we opened up another day program in Newmarket.
Right.
But we've always had social workers out in the community, and right now we've got about 10 social workers in the community delivering services. We have a public education coordinator who sees close to 9,000 people throughout the region.
So if I am an individual who's watching and first of all, the signs are there, what do I do as either as a spouse or as a family member to make sure that the diagnosis is done correctly, and then we start to treat whatever the consequences
Well,
are?
I really think that reaching out is prime, and you can't do this alone. We all think we can. You can't. You need to get involved with either the Alzheimer's Society or an agency like CHATS, because we can link you up. We all think at the beginning that we can manage everything.
Right.
But it is a progressive disease that over time gets worse. And you are in this role as care partner, caregiver, 10 years sometimes, 8 years. And you need a rest as well. So I think getting the diagnosis is vitally important. And we have some great services in York Region. South Lake has a geriatric outreach team.
Okay.
So they will come out to the homes, but they also have people come into the hospital for assessment.
Okay.
There are the other hospitals as well have outreach teams. But you can also call us, and we can help get you linked up.
So that's, that's probably one of the biggest challenges that people have, is that when something does happen, they're almost paralyzed in that, because if I want to phone tomorrow because my cable, there's something wrong with my cable, and with no disrespect to whether it's cable, telephone, or whatever, there is a frustration level that grows because, I always say that I'm technologically challenged.
Yes.
So I'm not good at figuring out how it's
Well,
done.
we have a program for you.
Okay, yeah,
Rob.
okay.
Actually, when a diagnosis is made, we have a program called First Link.
Okay.
So when the doctor makes a diagnosis, families should be asked, would you like to have connection to the Alzheimer's Society? So instead of going away with a phone number and you having to call us, we'll call you.
Oh, great.
Because the referral comes right into us. And Jonathan Macri, who's our First Link coordinator, he handles close to 600 phone calls a year, 600 new families,
Wow.
referred. And he will call, send information, link you to services, link you to the social worker. It might be too early for that.
Yeah.
You might say, we're just processing, call us back. And he will call back in 3 months, 6 months. But calling and talking to us is really important.
Good.
So that we can link you to services.
You're watching Your Town, Your Call here on Rogers TV. Georgina, my name is Rob Grossi. I'm the host of Your Town, Your Call, a program that we hope that you sort of interact with. If you want to give us a call at 905-476-2733, you can ask Andrea a question about Alzheimer's and the services that they provide in York Region, or you can ask a question just about seniors type services. Andrea's pretty fluent in those kinds of services. We also have Tim Jones, who was our first guest. He's going to be back in the next segment. You can ask him questions about chats and the kinds of services that they provide. So pick up the phone. I'm sure you've got a question. You'll, when the show is over, you'll say, gee, I should have phoned and asked that question. Do it now, 905-476-2733. Andrea, we talked with Tim about transportation, and you mentioned a little earlier about the transportation services that you provide. Do I need to contact you for specific services for Alzheimer's or dementia, or do you link?
The only transportation that we provide is linked to our day program.
Okay.
So it's only to bring people into our program, because it's very difficult sometimes for people to travel on the regular transit. YRT Mobility is fabulous.
Right.
Chat's iRide program is fabulous. We utilize those as well.
Right.
But we also have two little vans that go around in a small catchment area. But we most certainly link to other agencies. We have an office up here in Georgina
Right, I know
on
where it is.
Simcoe.
Yeah.
And I have two social workers who work out of that. That office, and they actually live in the region.
Excellent.
And up in Georgina, which is fabulous.
Excellent.
So we link very closely to other programs to try to put a package together, working closely with CCAC and helping families navigate the system, because it's a hard system to navigate.
Yeah, and I know at the region there used to be this book, and I think it's online too, of services, and they're in Georgina. There's Linking Georgina,
Yeah,
which
and
is
York
a group
Link
of
is
services.
the
York Link is the
Link,
one.
yeah.
So there is that. But if I'm that person that that just needs some guidance, I think I can hear from you, and the way Tim spoke is that if I'm fairly new at this, you have the people that would at least help guide me
Definitely.
initially in what I
Definitely.
need to do and who I need to access.
Definitely. So, I mean, call us. We have an 800 number. It's 888-414-5550.
Okay, I think they're going to put that up on the
Good,
screen at some point in
okay.
time. Good, okay. And day-to-day living, so if you've got, there's a diagnosis, you've got someone who's a caregiver, that day-to-day living is a challenge, I take it, because you've got issues that you have to deal with on...
It is, but things are changing too. I mean, I think everyone You know, we think Alzheimer's, we think the end stage of the disease. And when I started 25 years ago, that's certainly what we saw and what I lived through as a family member. But we are getting better now at diagnosing early. And people can actually live very well with supports
Okay.
for quite a long time in the disease. You know, there are people that I see and that my social workers see that we are active participants of their community, actively involved with their family. They just need some support and some help to mitigate some of those changes that happen because of the disease.
But the changes then are, I mean, it's difficult for the caregiver or the family member because as time goes and that distance, you know, continues or grows as well, that person is no longer the person that they knew as their.
Yeah, they're not
know,
the same. No,
right.
they do have challenges. I mean, personality and mood changes. You know, someone who is calm and placid could become somebody who has a lot of anxiety issues, or somebody who was the life of the party could become very quiet and withdrawn. But there are also other challenges as the disease progresses that are much more physical.
Okay.
And we forget about those.
Right.
There's mobility issues, balance issues, people have falls, but also things like infection crop up. But that's towards the end stage of the
Right.
illness. I mean, at the beginning stage, people will need supervision often because people can get lost out in the community. We have a fabulous program which we're rebooting now called Finding Your Way.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking to supportive housing, EMS, retirement homes, and we have a lot of retirement homes in York Region. That's a growth industry.
Yeah.
In terms of equipping their staff and the residents to understand when somebody is having an episode where they may not recognize where they are.
But you know, I guess we do make the mistake that that when people are going through this disease, that they are that they're no longer functional. Yet they are very functional.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just their whole self changes, but they function very well.
And you have to, we have to figure out how to get into their world and try to understand how they're functioning. So we, as those people who are around them, have to learn how to communicate maybe differently and help them so that they can function well in the community.
What about just public awareness about, you know, because often you're not really aware until it hits you in the face.
Yeah.
You know,
Like I said, we have a public educator who is out in the community. Our social workers also do that, and our First Link coordinator. We talked to about 9,500 people last year.
Wow.
At different events, and one of the things that we work closely with chats at is with their caregiver educators, and we do a lot of joint events together where we're raising awareness about the disease, about what's normal aging, what's not normal aging, where you can get some support and help, and getting seniors maybe to think, none of us want to think that we're going to have any challenges, but
Right.
things like getting your powers of attorney in place, getting your wills in place,
Right.
having conversations with your family and your friends and whoever is important to you about how you want things to be should something change for you. You know, that's advanced care planning.
do you actually have the ability to do that once the disease is in place? It must be pretty tough, you know, with families and trying to decide, you know, who's going to have the power of attorney, who's going to be able to.
Well, if you're waiting till the disease is in place, it's a little too late.
you're-
That's why we want people to talk earlier about
right.
it, and why in the early stages. And we have an education program for people who've been newly diagnosed with their family care partners to go through a 4-part education session together so they can, and we help facilitate discussions.
So should people that are watching, if they have a history of dementia in the family, and even if they're a young couple, they should sit down and say, let's at least talk about.
Everybody should talk about what wishes you would like. We could walk across the street and get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
And things change right away.
Right.
We could be playing hockey and get hit in the head with another puck, like poor Sidney's had, Sidney Crosby,
yeah.
so many concussions.
Well, are concussions and Alzheimer's related? And we got a segment coming up, and we'll get Tim back, and we'll
Yeah,
talk about that,
we'll talk about,
research, and that sort of stuff. You're watching Your Town, Your Call here on Rogers TV. Georgina, my name is Rob Grossi. I'm the host of Your Town, Your Call. We'll be back in just a minute.